Let's come to this now. There are concerns from some academics that sex education in schools does not accommodate people with disabilities. Pretoria University lecturer, that's Lindokuhle Ubisi, says that sex education material is mostly visual, auditory and in written format. This often excludes pupils with visual impairments. Ubisi joins us now for more on this. Lindokuhle, thank you for your time and good morning to you. I think quite an important conversation to have this morning. Take us through the gaps that you have identified when it comes to learners or people living with disability and sex education.
Thank you so much for the invite. So there's a lot of aspects related to that, and first of all is the visibility and some of the content that is covered. I mean, when you think of things such as the disabled bodied or bodies which are constructed as disabled, and I mean, us seeing them as sexual bodies is something which is unintelligible, first of all. And as we construct these discourses, they also create subjects. And when you think of things such as how we actually deliver this material, this CSE material in these schools, especially for learners with special educational needs, where they can't see the material that is visual, the material that is written, so it needs to be brailled, and not much has been done to accommodate those learners in those types of schools. And then the last part is actually the resources and the material used to teach these subjects. So think for yourself, how do you teach masturbation to a learner who's visually impaired?
And also, I know you touched on this, but also the teachers, not, obviously the impact on the learners, but also the teachers, them being confident and even comfortable, executing this curriculum. How important is that?
It's quite important because teachers also feel confused and also feel as if there is not enough material, there is not enough support, there is not enough teacher training within teaching colleges, within higher education, because this is a subject which is sometimes neglected within higher education, within teacher education. So it's something which they're just tossed into it, and they have to actually find ways to teach this type of subjects and these topics.
Yeah. When it comes to the curriculum, then, Lindokuhle, I mean, I know that you also identified some gaps. You're saying that CSE was only almost taught in grade 10, even though introduced in grade 4. Where are the loopholes and gaps do you identify on the overall curriculum by the Department of Basic Education?
Okay, so there's 3 activities which I identified, and basically they start in grade 10 and are only left in grade 10. So when I actually looked at the effectiveness of the activities themselves, the activities, yes, are effective. However, there's so many other things which are missing. So things such as the idea that how do you get consent, for example, from a learner who is 16 and can have sex, or 18 can have sex, and can consent to that. But now when we speak of intellectual disabilities, for example, how do we ensure, and as experts or psychologists working in a field such as this, where cases reported of rape, how do we ensure that consent has been granted, not just for one activity or for one sexual encounter, sexual experience, but throughout? How do you then, so subjects such as consent, how do we establish consent in subjects such as that?
So before then I let you go, what are some of the recommendations that perhaps academics like yourselves provide to the Department of Basic Education to consider when it comes to the issues and topic or subject matter of sex education and people living with disability?
Yes, so definitely teacher training is an important aspect. I think there's so much also that can be done in terms of the visibility of some of these subjects and some of these topics we speak about in the classroom to sensitize other learners that you are normal, you are desirable. Because when you think of CSE material, when you look at some of the contents or the subjects or the pictures in there, it's mostly an able-bodied being or an able-bodied family, which is depicted as the preferred norm. And so I think some of these subjects need to be unpacked in the classroom so that other learners can actually see that this is something which is happening. And I think the idea of normality needs to also be deconstructed. So in terms of recommendations, It's the visibility of disability and sexuality within the curriculum. I think also teacher training as well is very, very important to sensitize teachers, to bring them the level of confidence to teach these subjects, and the material as well to develop, so we can detail some of these scripted lesson plans for learners who are hearing impaired, who are visually impaired. We can braille them, we can use certain material and resources. So internationally, for example, there is assistive sexual devices which have become part of the education and the lessons.
Yeah, I have to say this is quite a powerful and important presentation that you have just made. And Lindo, thank you so much for highlighting this important issue. Lindokuhle Ubisi, thank you so much for your time this morning.
You know what Lindokuhle also raised as well that I picked on very briefly, is how is this all being done with distance learning?
Right.
How difficult this is difficult at the best of times.
Yeah.
But imagine trying to do this now over Zoom or
virtually.
Is it Teams or Classrooms or whatever. I don't have kids. I don't know what the programs are these days. But imagine how difficult this is. So setting the lack of sex education for those with disabilities, it's difficult when there's not COVID-19. Imagine now. During lockdown and trying to work and study from home must be very difficult.
Hence, we need to start the conversation.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Lindo for doing that for us.